All right. Well, speaking of something that will be coming out that hopefully will warrant watching it 3 times,
Mm,
Amazon's Lord of the Rings series, The Rings of
yes.
Power. I wanted to bring this up again because we've been talking about it, but there's a little bit a new development in the Lord of the Rings universe now.
Mhm,
Um, so I'll start with that, I guess. They've announced an anime series or an anime movie, perhaps, that is being done called The War of Rohirum.
mhm.
And yeah, they say it's really supposed to be in the vein of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. So it feels like it's supposed to kind of continue on that track or that tone, I guess. So,
And why is
um,
it animated?
why is it animated? Well,
Yeah.
probably budgetary reasons and that kind of thing. It's like they don't want to spend another $1 billion on another one, I guess. Well, you don't want to see the animated? It's not.
I mean,
No.
they could have done live action, but it would just been like 3 people on horseback riding around New Zealand, and that's it.
Just get, Carl Urban to come back. Just ride around.
Well, I would watch that, I guess.
I would.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no, I don't know. I'm not against animation with regard to Lord of the Rings because I
Hmm.
absolutely love the animated Hobbit. I think it's so great.
Hmm.
But I guess the where I get wary is like tying it into like, oh, it's like Peter Jackson's. Like, no, I don't want I don't want those associated with animated. If you're gonna do it animated, do it completely different. Like, don't I just worry that they're gonna try to get stylistically, I don't know, like
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is.
just
I would
embrace the fact
say,
that it's animated. I don't know.
yeah. I see. I don't know for sure what's going to happen here. It's done by the director of Ghost in the Shell.
Right.
I think the TV series, not the movie, probably.
And is it Fran Walsh or Philippa Boyens who's also helping produce this? I can't remember.
Um, Philippa.
Okay,
Yep.
sure.
Yep. So it says movie is set in Tolkien's Middle Earth universe, and we'll go into the history of Helm's Deep, the famous site, the later battle, da, da, da. And yeah, dealing with the let's see, yeah, focusing on Helm's Deep. So, and then Ninth King of Rohan.
Mhm.
But we
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know what, yeah, stylistically, like art wise, what it's gonna be like, or anything like that. So
yeah, I just get wary when, as we've talked about, we get wary about mixing medias, with
yeah,
shows and how does that translate? And sometimes that can work out really well and sometimes it doesn't, and it does worry me that someone from like Peter Jackson's team is on this. Not that I don't think they're gonna do an excellent job of storytelling, but that, they're gonna get too, um, locked into, this is what we did when Peter Jackson was doing things, and this is how we approached things, and then you start to convolute, like, well, this is an animated thing, like, are we not bound by, the world that's live action, or are we confusing things? Are we, getting stylistically like too real and forgetting that we're creating an animated product?
okay, yeah,
I don't
that could
know.
be
It just worries me because I think things are most successful when they remember what medium they're working in, and sometimes I think that can be difficult to like shift back and forth, and things just
sure.
don't translate to the other.
There's a quote I was trying to find that I thought was particularly relevant. I wanted to double check that it was real too, because you never know on that. Um,
True.
but it was talking about how Peter Jackson was saying when they were making Lord of the Rings, they really were making it for like almost. making it not for themselves but for Tolkien. What would constantly in their mind, what would he want here? How would he want his world to come across? Um, and so I just like that approach, and I mean, I hope that can be um, brought to something like this animation. But to your point, sometimes I kind of like what they did with the anime Star Wars Visions,
Yeah.
just like out there, tell a different story, make something up, do your own thing. Um, I kind of like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Dustin, are you much into Lord of the Rings? Is that
Oh,
the thing you're
yes.
fond of?
I
Okay.
tried very hard to read the first Lord of the Rings book. But then it's like 50 pages in, and Bilbo has just started smoking his pipe before his birthday, and I was like, no, I don't think I can handle it. I mean, I'm sure they're fantastic, but my mind
Yeah.
wanders too much, and knowing all the movies and everything before I jumped into the books, then it felt
It's tough.
like it takes a long time to get to the stuff where momentum's picking up and all that. But um, I've definitely watched all the extended cuts and all that stuff. Um, I'll never forget introducing my cousin, who has never been like a fantasy fan, to him, and Crosby and I, we stayed up all night talking about it, trying to get him to like convince him. He's like, finally, okay, let's watch it. So Crosby put in the extended cut of the first one, which has, plenty of stuff to happen before it gets to the action. And Crosby and I both passed out, and my cousin was just like, you jerks. Like, you just made me sit here and watch this. But then by the second movie, he was totally on board. Because then it's like
Wow.
movies 2 and 3, it's just like nonstop giant battles. So
Right, action, yeah.
he was all for it.
Well, okay, so I know Andrea's answer. What's your favorite of the trilogy then?
Oh, that's hard to say because I felt like of all trilogies, like that trilogy is so close on all of them for me because they're. I mean, I love number one because it really sets the stakes and everything, but then the ending doesn't really give you a satisfying. Like it's just like okay, we got through that, but we still have so much more to go.
Mm-hmm.
Number two had such a great like ending of triumph. Um, so I think maybe that would be my favorite, and then number three extended gives you so much more
Yeah.
stuff, which is very exciting. Um, so definitely number two would probably have to be my favorite, but then maybe number one, then number three. I'm not sure. I got to go
Okay.
back and watch them. I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of like the thing that I feel like I need to watch every 5 years or so just to remember
sure.
how dang good they are.
They are.
Yeah.
They're such like a
Yep.
close trilogy. There's not, in my opinion, there's not one you're like, oh, obviously this
Hmm.
one, and then like, the other two. They're all just like so neck and neck, just
Yeah.
well done.
Now,
Um
as for the Hobbits, you know,
Yeah, that's different.
I enjoyed them, but I really felt like that could have been
So
two
different.
movies and
So
just
different.
cut out so much. By the
Yeah.
third one, when the actual like final battle starts, I'm like, wait, this movie's not over now. I don't know, but
I actually never saw the third Hobbit film.
oh
That's
really?
no, yeah.
Well, I know
I
you're
was
a
pretty
diehard on
disappointed.
the. Okay.
There's a
I mean,
payoff there. I mean,
yeah, I should see it. I would like to see it, I guess. I
yeah.
don't know. I didn't get to him in the theater. I was so like affronted by the idea that you're taking The Hobbit and making it three hour movies.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is foolish.
Yeah.
Um and so I think we had a glorious magical moment where Peter Jackson and co jumped off to New Zealand, spent a decade or whatever making, a work of art, three very long films that can be watched back to back. And like you say, they're great. The music's there. They, revolutionized some special effects. Everybody always did. It was always ILM, and then Wetaworks was put on the map because of this.
Hmm.
Um, all kinds of things. We had this sliver of time, and now I feel like Tolkien's world is just downhill track from here. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, they certainly
Well, I
set a
thought maybe.
standard that's hard to capture. It's hard to match that
Hmm.
again. And obviously, we
Yep.
know even with Peter Jackson, I think pretty much everyone can agree the Hobbit films failed at that.
Yeah. Well, and you start with kind of the best, which is the mistake, sort of. It's like, well, let's tell the story to near perfection that everybody wants to hear, the renowned books. Well, let's see, how can we get some more money out of this now? Let's start taking the other things. Let's take the children's book, The Hobbit, that's 150 pages or whatever it is, whatever it is, and let's make that, let's stretch it beyond belief. And then now let's take, which leads me to the next part, back to the Vanity Fair article, because we were talking about this, and I don't
Hmm.
know why it didn't click with me, but I was saying how I thought that they were having to take stuff from appendices to the Lord of the Rings books.
Hmm.
And then we were talking about a lot of this stuff happening in the Silmarillion.
Hmm.
Well, in this Vanity Fair article, they call out they don't have the rights to adapt the Silmarillion.
Oh.
They have the rights to the appendices. So they're going to be telling stuff that is in the Silmarillion,
Yes.
but basing it on the appendices so they
Hmm.
can get away with this technically on a technicality. And so that means they have to fill in tons of stuff. There's already, as we talked, thousands of years of time being spanned here that
Yes.
you'd had to fill in a lot of gaps within the Silmarillion, but they can't use that, so they have to take the bite-sized cliff notes and then just invent. This is a terrible idea. Okay, spending $1
I didn't
billion
know about
on this.
this.
This is
I
a
know.
wrong idea. I,
I
I don't
know.
know why. It must have been my not understanding the part of the world that the part of the
Sure.
story they're telling. So I didn't click with me before, because this is just kind of stunning. So they like beg for the rights to something Tolkien. They get this and like, yeah, let's drop $1 billion and just basically invent it all because they wouldn't give us the rights to the Silmarillion.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like you know, it's crazy that they didn't learn their lesson from The Hobbit, that stretching things out and inventing them is a terrible idea and people hate that. You know what I mean? Like that's
Hmm.
fundamentally, if you strip away, you know, everything that you could maybe nitpick or be annoyed or upset about at The Hobbit, that's like the essence of what's wrong with the Hobbit trilogy, is that
Yeah.
stretching out into 3 films, material that did not need to be there. It just dragged everything down and you were like, "Why do I even care at this point about all this extra crap, because it's not well done." You can feel that it's not in Tolkien's material.
Yeah.
Ah,
Hmm.
so yeah, adding a
Well,
bunch of stuff here is also worrisome to me, to be like, "Oh boy, like we're gonna do this again, huh? Like we're gonna go in and stretch some stuff out and make it into a season." They're talking like 5, 6 seasons, possibly already planned, semi-planned. That's a little scary.
well, I'd have to say that Jeff Bezos, has never really been in touch with what people want. So it kind of makes sense that he's like,
Penis rockets.
yeah,
Number 1 on Christmas list.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure that he's just like, here, people like Lord of the Rings, right?
Well, and he
Here's a
does.
bunch of
It's the
money.
crazy part. They keep talking in the article about like how much Jeff Bezos like loves Lord of the Rings and is so like, we had
But
to get
does
our hands
he?
on this property. Well, that's the thing. It's like, do you really love Lord of the Rings then, if you got your hands on this property and said we're going to, take what we can get and then stretch it out into all this different stuff. Like
Hmm.
that's not real love, you know? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? Like if you
No,
really
yeah,
love Lord of the
it's
Rings, like how would you want this version of it?
for all we
That
know, it could be PR speak. It's like when it's like the
right,
really
that's what I
ridiculous
mean.
thing when you sit down and you
Mhm.
listen. It's a behind the scenes video, and they're talking to the producer, and executive producer, and co-executive producer, and they're just like going on and on about authenticity and the person that they, the dream cast they have, and it's just they're selling the movie that they invested in. Like
Right,
that's what
Yeah.
they're there, and if it feels like a suit talking to you from a monitor, or they just
right.
have that PR speak. So maybe Bezos does like it, but it strikes me as like it's a thing that, oh yeah, I read those books as a kid. I really like them. That's fun. Here's $1 billion. Make me a lot of money with
Mhm.
it. I don't know, like it
Yeah.
just
I
It does
loved it
feel
so much that I decided to chop out a bunch and then
yeah.
make up my own story. Like,
yeah.
cool. I love your fan fiction. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Your $1 billion fan fiction. Um yeah, it's tough because I also feel like the timing on this suggests not a love for Lord of the Rings is driving this, but we're still throwing things at the wall to find the next Game of Thrones, especially with
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
Wheel of Time coming out and this coming out now. It's just like I don't know that I believe that wholeheartedly,
Mhm.
Again, not that Jeff Bezos couldn't love Lord of the Rings or be
Right.
interested or, have read them and been like, I like this. Um, but it does feel suspect to be like, oh, he's so invested, he's so excited, and you know,
Mhm.
this is his passion. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think
at
it's
me, Jeff Bezos. I don't know if this is your passion. Tell me.
Yeah, yeah, we want to hear from you, absolutely. And when you write in the show, I'm going to tell you what a dick you were to William Shatner. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know if you guys saw that live when William Shatner went up in
I
the
didn't
his
know.
rocket. Then he
Mhm.
came down and they were like, he was going to go over and talk to him. And again, you could tell it was just for a PR moment. William Shatner was like crying and he had like an emotional experience going into
Oh, like
space.
crying because like
Yeah, he just
like
was
oh
so
my
he's
god,
like
I just
it
went in
like
space.
he was
Like
he was trying to talk about how it like put life in
sure,
a new perspective and like all
sure,
this stuff. And
Yeah.
Bezos had to just like, oh sorry, and go over to get a bottle of champagne to spray on everyone. And
Yep.
and then
I did see
I
that.
just was
oh,
like,
pick your
what
moment, Bezos. Pick your moment. Read
Yep.
the room. Ooh.
asshole.
Well,
Jesus.
I wouldn't expect someone who makes that much money off of underpaid people to have any sort of sympathy or connection with another human being.
Me
Right.
So,
expressing human emotion?
ooh,
Uncomfortable. Let
yep.
me get some
Mhm.
champagne. I will
Mhm.
drink
Yeah.
this memory of human emotion away.
Uh
Yep.
man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not I think there's a real hubris here that people seem to think, well, people really like those Lord of the Rings books. They're pretty good. I'm sure we can make something cool with that. And
Mhm.
not like under thinking about the craft that goes into specifically writing a fleshed out world that's paced in a specific way. I mean, we see it with Game of Thrones. We see
Right.
what happens when the final parts weren't actually thought out. They weren't
Right.
actually like this was the plan. This is I mean, if it was just easy, George R. R. Martin would be done. Those books would be done. But
Yeah.
he's trying to get it right and then do
Yep.
a bunch of other stuff too, like Elden Ring. But like he's trying to make it right and it has
Right.
to things have to pay off and his world has to conclude properly, and so then you
Right.
get some writers room at Amazon just thinks they can just take these ideas and we're just going to make it brilliant.
Mhm.
um what are your credentials, like how are what epic fantasy masterpiece have you written that you just get to do this now, to like people forget how influential Tolkien's work was. Like
Mhm.
our idea of fantasy is because of him. Like
Mhm.
whether it's Game of Thrones, it's D&D, everything we have with
Wheel of Time.
mages and elves and all of it is because of him. And I know he based on other things as well, but that's where we get it. That's our touchstone for that. So like to just casually do this, I don't know. I just it speaks to not caring about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you bring up obviously a salient point with Game of Thrones. I mean, season 8, 7 and 8 were basically working off of George R.R. Martin's like bullet points, outlines, much like appendices, and
Yeah.
filling that in. Didn't work out so well. I
Mhm.
mean, everybody had pretty negative reactions to season 7. Obviously nothing like season 8. But it's not like people sat there going, "Ooh, this is so good," even in season 7. And that seems to be the problem again here. Now, I am absolutely willing after watching the series to eat my words if I am wrong. If it turns out
Sure.
great, I will
Yeah.
be so flipping excited. I
Mhm.
will lose my mind and I will be the first to be like, I was wrong, criticized, I said all this shit. Once again, Jeff Bezos, you can at me and tell me how wrong I was. Bring the champagne. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like people aren't learning this lesson of you can't just take bullet points and outlines and sketches and just fill in whatever you want and think it's going to be great, because 9 times out of 10 it hasn't turned out great, and we've noticed.
Yep. People are going to ask me like, John, why in the future, why are you doing your podcast by yourself now? What happened to Andrea? Oh, she saw Lord of the Rings on Amazon, lost her mind, so she can't form words anymore. Her mind is gone.
Oh,
We'll
I
just
thought you were gonna
randomly
say.
pop up, just gibbering.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Jeff Bezos like bought her town and landed his spaceship on her house or something.
Landed his penis spaceship on my house. I am no
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. That would be an ending, yeah.
It
That'd be
would be.
something.
Didn't see that coming.